it's Jara again. Welcome back to my channel. So, I have a new channel, if you did not know, that's dedicated to books. So if you like books as well as movie and TV shows, then that's where everything book related is. So, yeah. Okay. Today, we'll be doing a supernatural one.
Tell them the name of your channel.
Oh, the name is, what's the name? Oh, it's called Seekers Bears. Because anyone who knows me knows I'm absolutely in love with Seekers. So, I had to. Anyways, today we'll be doing another supernatural one. I think I only did like 2 supernatural ones in the past, which is really weird because I absolutely love supernatural. I mean, like when people ask me my favorite TV show, I don't have just one, so I name off several that's off the top of my head, and supernatural is usually one of them that does come to mind because I absolutely love it. So, I'm going to be doing another one. It's one of my countdown videos. Top 10 times Dean Winchester broke our hearts. And we know there's a lot of them, so I won't be getting into all of them, but I'll be getting to the big ones. Okay? So, number 10. The one time Dean said no to being asking... I can't speak. The one time Dean said no to be asking if he was alright. Whenever Sam or anyone asks Dean if he's alright, he's always like, I'm fine, bye. Even though he's hardly ever fine. And I know it's kind of an underrated scene, but it just broke my heart because Sam asked if he was alright, and then Dean just looked at him and he was like, no. And it was such a small scene, but it still breaks my heart because for once he actually said no, and it was sad. So yeah, I had to add that. 9. It's like I had one job. I had one job and I screwed it up. I blew it, and for that I'm sorry. That's when Dean was talking to Sam's dead body at the end of season 2. Right before he sold his soul to bring Sam back to life. He was talking to Sam because his entire life he did have one job. You know, after his mom died and they became hunters, his dad put on way too much crap on him. I mean, it showed flashbacks and everything of what Dean and Sam went through as kids, and it's like he had praised Sam and he was way too hard on Dean. Like one time when a demon came too close to Sam in the hotel room, it was Dean's fault for being a kid and wanting to go out for a couple minutes. And it makes me really mad because it wasn't Dean's fault. It was John's fault for being a bad father. I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of John or Mary. But yeah, he was saying that to Sam, and it was really sad. You know, he was crying and he was like, I had one job and I blew it, and I think that's the saddest part of it because he does consider protecting Sam his entire life goal, you know, because that's all he's ever known. That's what he's been doing since he was 4 years old, and his father gave him his little brother to run out of the burning house. You know, ever since then, it's like all that mattered to everyone was for Dean to protect Sam. And it's kind of bogus. You know, it amazes me that Dean hasn't resented Sam for all of that yet, you know? But, okay, so number 8 is, I'm poisoned. People get close to me, they get killed, or worse. This was after Sam found out that Dean let Ezekiel into Sam's position isn't the right word because he's not a demon. Enter his body, I guess. He tricked Sam into letting Ezekiel, an angel, get into his body to save his life so he can slowly heal him from the inside. And when Sam found out, he was obviously upset because he did that without his permission. And then Dean was like, I'm poisoned, people get close to me and they get killed, because you know, he feels like everyone he's ever loved gets close to him and they get hurt or killed, and it's actually really sad, you know, and I feel so bad for Dean. I mean, I could go on for hours just talking about Dean and how crappy his life was. Okay, 7 is, I had to be a father and I had to be a mother to keep him safe, and that wasn't fair. Now, this scene is definitely one of the most heartbreaking. When Mary was brainwashed, he went inside her mind to try and get her back, and Mary had put this like shield up, this wall up, I guess you could say, and she was in her past when she was watching baby Sammy not long before she would have died, and
I've seen that episode.
Oh really? And it's just so heartbreaking because Dean was trying to get her back, and then he was kind of like, I hate you, but I love you, because he can't help it. But what really got me was the fact of what he said about Sam. He said, I had to be a father, and I had to be a mother to keep him safe. And that wasn't fair, which is true, because it wasn't. He was never a child, not since he was 4 years old. And he made sure that Sam was a child for at least a little while, kept him in the dark about demons and everything so he could have a fun life for a little bit, because he knew that, because he never did. You know, he always put himself on the back burner for his brother, and he doesn't really know how to put himself first. And it wasn't fair that John and Mary always expected him to put Sam first, you know? I mean, it was just so unfair, and I could go on forever, like I said. So moving on. 6. Every time Dean sacrifices himself and or dies, because it's supernatural and that happens a lot. I have a video on this channel of every supernatural death, not every supernatural death, but every time Dean, Sam, and Cass dies. And if you watch that video, then yeah, Dean dies a lot, more than Sam or Cass. But and a lot of those times that he does die, he sacrifices himself. For a lot of times it is for Sam, but sometimes for other people he cares about too, like Cass or Bobby, you know, Charlie, Joe, Ellen. And yeah, so it's really heartbreaking because he doesn't even have to think twice before sacrificing himself for someone he cares about, or even for a total stranger he would so do it, because he thinks that little of himself, because that's how he was raised, and it's so sad. Here am I. Number 5, you're not hungry, Dean, because inside you're already dead. Go upstairs. She'll be upstairs in a minute. Go. Okay, where am I? 5, you're not hungry, Dean, because inside you're already dead.
Come here!
This is when Dean was talking to one of the 4 horsemen, and famished or something like that. And he was making everyone who was hungry for something they don't let themselves have. Like Cass's vessel, Jimmy, was hungry for food, you know, and Sam was hungry for demon blood. For whatever you don't let yourself have that you desire is what you're hungry for. Like it showed 2 people who were virgins basically eat each other while having sex at the very beginning of the episode. And Dean, he wasn't hungry for anything. And when Cass asked him about it later on, he's like, well, because if I want sex, I go get sex. If I want food, I go get food. So he's like, that's what he thought is why he didn't want anything, because he doesn't let himself want anything. If he wants it, he'll go get it. But later on, when he's talking to the horseman, the horseman's like, you're not hungry, Dean, because inside you're already dead. You can lie to your brother, but not to me, and stuff like that. And it was just kind of upset because Dean's face, and it was sad because it's so true, because that's how Dean feels all the time. And it's like, you know, he has this big heart, even bigger heart than Sam, in my opinion, but he doesn't let hardly anyone see it, and it's just so sad. Okay, 4, talking to himself. I think this was when Bobby was in like a coma or something. Not when he was about to die, but him and Sam went in to try and save him, and they both had to go on their own separate journeys. I don't really remember Sam's, but I remember Dean's because it was heartbreaking. Dean ended up going to a room and seeing Dean, pretty much. And so the other Dean's talking to him, and he's like, I know you. And
I saw you watching that.
Oh yeah? It's such a sad scene.
Mommy, the floor's cold.
He's like, he's like, what did he say? He's like, he talks about how, you know, he isn't even trying to escape his fate and this and that. He's this perfect little soldier for his dad, does anything under orders, you know, and he's like, do you even have an original thought your car is Dad's, your music is Dad's,
Oh, that's sad.
your leather jacket Dad's. And
so is he trying to be his dad, or?
he's trying to prove himself to his dad because his entire life Sam was important and he wasn't. If something happened to Sam, it's Dean's fault. Like one time when Sam ran away because he was tired of that life, Dean got in trouble for not keeping an eye on him. And one time when a demon got a little too close to him, it was Dean's fault for not being able to protect his little brother, even though he wasn't much older himself.
Gotcha.
And it's really messed up. All he wants is to prove himself to his dad. That's why he does do everything his dad says, and hardly
Which
ever
is
argues
sad
to
because
him.
he'll never be able to prove himself to his dad. No matter how great of a person he becomes, his dad does not look at him that way, and that's never going to change.
It is sad. But yeah, and then Dean ended up getting really angry at himself, and he gets real, and he starts like, he grabbed a gun, started beating him with himself with the gun, basically, and he's like, what did he say? I didn't deserve what he put on me. That was his crap. He's the one that couldn't protect his family. I didn't deserve what he put on me, and I don't deserve to go to hell, because this is after he sold his soul, so he was about to go to hell. And then he basically shoots himself in a way, because he looked just like him. So yeah, and yeah. Number 3, talking about hell. After a little while after Dean does get free from hell, he would keep telling Sam that he doesn't even remember hell, that it's all just a big blur, because he was there for 4 months, but in hell, you find out when he does finally talk to Sam about it, is that it was more like 40 years, because hell moves faster, I guess. And so he was there for 40 years, and he's like, for the first 30 years, he was tortured again and again, and again and again. Every day for hours on end, he was tortured by a demon named Alistair. And then every day he would say, if you agree to start torturing souls and ripping them apart like I do to you, then you can get off the rack, and I won't torture you anymore. And for 30 years, he said no, but then he just couldn't take it anymore. So he got off the rack, and he started torturing souls for the next 10 years. And he was crying as he said it, and it just breaks my heart. He felt so guilty. He said, no matter how many people I save, no matter how many demons I kill, I will never be able to shake what I did. And it was just really sad, and I feel so bad for my baby. Okay, number 2. I don't care what happens to me. I never really have. But I do care about what happens to my brother. There's 2 for this one because it was tied. And then the second one is, your problem, mate, is that no one hates you more than you do. So for the first one, it says, it's when he's talking to Sam, and it's really sad because it's the truth, you know. For his entire, like I've mentioned before, like 10 times in the video, he did always have to protect his brother against everything, and he could never worry about himself, not even for a second. It was all about Sam. It always has been. So, and it just really hurts when every time he talks about his childhood, it breaks my heart. He's like, I don't care what happens to me. I never really have. But I do care about what happens to my brother. And it's just so sad because it's the truth. And the second one is, your problem, mate, is that no one hates you more than I do. And this is what Crowley tells him. I think it's around the time he gets the mark of Cain. I might be wrong, though. But Crowley and Dean were in the car in Baby, because that's what Dean named his car, because it's Dean.
Alrighty then.
The Impala. I don't remember how this conversation came up, but this scene I will never forget because it's just so sad. He's like, Crowley's like, your problem, mate, is that no one can hate you more than you do. Believe me, I've tried. And that's how when the king of hell can't hate you more than you hate yourself. Just throwing that out there. That's just sad. Isn't that right, Mom?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so here's...
Well, why did you out me? That's a little messed up. She outed me, folks.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah, that's the conversation for another time.
Honorable mentions. Dean crying over Sam. This would be when he died at the end of season 2. getting yelled at by John for not being able to protect Sam as a child, which I've mentioned because that was messed up. And Sam's face, he looks so hurt, like, oh my gosh, I can't. The moment decapitating himself felt good.
That's a little okay.
When there were shapeshifters, shapeshifting as him and Sam, the one that shapeshifted into Dean was about to kill Sam, and he decapitated him, and he was like, that felt good. I'm like, that's a low point. That proves how much you really see yourself if decapitating someone that looks just like you feels good. Just throw that out there, because that's a whole new level. Cass figured out that Dean doesn't think he deserves to be saved right after they met, but Bobby and Sam didn't. After Dean came back from hell and finds out who Cass is, and that he's an angel and he's the one that raised him from redemption, and they were all talking about how an angel saved him, and Dean was like, no, it's not possible that God or whoever is up there could want to save me. And Sam and Bobby kept saying, why don't you think it's possible? But Cass was able to figure out. He even looked at straight Dean eye to eye and was like, you don't think you deserve to be saved. And he figured that out like right after meeting him, when Sam and Bobby couldn't figure out why. And it's just sad. Dean praying to Cass. This was actually in the latest season, which still isn't over, which I hope I can finish soon because they need to finish that show. Dean was most of season 15. At the beginning of season 15, he was mad at Cass and hardly wanted anything to do with him because they were in this huge fight, probably their biggest fight. Well, one of their biggest fights they have fought throughout the show, but they always get back on good terms because they're family. But Dean was, when they were in purgatory getting something, Dean couldn't find Cass because some of his enemies were after him, and he ended up getting on the ground crying, praying to Cass, hoping he could hear him, saying, of course I forgive you, and I'm so sorry it took me so long to say this. And yeah, it's sad. No. Number 1, I never was. Now this was sad too. Another time when Dean and Sam were talking about Mary and found out that Mary had been working with the British Men of Letters, and was keeping it from them. Dean and Mary had this big fight. Sam pretty much stayed quiet for most of it, and Dean was like, for once, can't you just be a mom? And Mary said, I am not just a mother, and you are not a child. And then Dean said, I never was. And it just breaks my heart, you know? I mean, there's other times he said about never being a kid, you know? Like when he was talking to Joe's ghost, or no, I think it was Joe's ghost. He said, he was talking to Joe, that's all I remember. And he said, hunters are never kids, I never was. And this one broke my heart more because he's talking to his mother. But he was like, I never was. And Mary's face, she just kind of stood back, like because she was dead for the last 30 years. She didn't know what Dean and Sam had went through growing up, and it's really sad, you know. And yeah, but every time Dean talks like that, it just, oh my gosh, Dean just breaks my heart like 90% of the time, I swear. But I love Dean. As you can tell, he's one of my favorite characters. So yeah, that's the list of top 10 times Dean Winchester broke my heart. Broke all of our hearts, really. So that is all. Please like and subscribe and comment what you think are the saddest and most heartbreaking Dean Winchester moments.